Oh, it's Tim and Lorraine from Fair Play Now on the 5th of December 2021. And before we get started, I've got a little video recommendation for you. It's not one I can put on here onto this platform, but I've got it on my website. So if you go to fairplaynow.net/must, M-U-S-T, I'll put a link to it in the description box below as well, so you can just click on it, and it's a real good message of hope about how, you know, the current narrative is just collapsing, and how we are on the right side of history and how we're going to win this thing. Because I've seen comments in under my videos and other videos about, oh, what's the point of fighting, we can never win this thing, the odds are too great. But there's always a weak point with anything, any sort of thing you're up against. No matter how strong it looks, there's always a weak link. And I always remember the first Star Wars, which was the only one I've ever really watched, to be honest with you, the very first one that came out in 1977, and or whenever it was, and they were up against the Death Star, wasn't it, that sort of massive spaceship the size of a planet or something, and they thought there's no way they could destroy it, and then they just found a tiny little exhaust port, didn't they, right in the somewhere on it, and they shot the missile down it, and boom, that was it. So no matter how strong and indestructible and unassailable something looks, just remember everything has got a weak point, and we'll find it and we will exploit it and we will win this thing. Anyway, with that message of defiance to kick off with, so I'm going to really hand over to Lorraine, because you've had quite a interesting weekend away this week. You had a couple of nights away, didn't you, with some friends? I
did.
All of whom are pretty mainstream narrative junkies, aren't they? So how did that go? Yeah,
so it was good. And I was going to stick away from the subject because if you're not careful, you do end up having rows, and I didn't want that. But actually, they were asking me questions and about why I thought what I did, and some of the points that I was making did seem to be making them think, so they weren't immediately coming back and saying no, that doesn't make sense. And
unlike a while ago, a few months ago, they were, weren't they?
Yeah, and a couple of things I said, this isn't about the illness, it's about control. And whereas before I would have probably looked a little bit like a lunatic, they were kind of agreeing a bit.
So
one of them did agree that they felt that care home workers should, but their reason for that didn't really make sense. But I don't know enough about to know if it's true. They said that an unvaccinated person is more likely to give someone COVID than a vaccinated person. And so I said, well, I don't know, but that doesn't sound sensible.
Anyway, so you're dropping a lot of truth bombs through the weekend, weren't you? And they weren't immediately dismissing them.
No, although one of them said that they'd just had their third, and they only had that because they felt they should, because they've had two, so they might as well just carry on.
That's the endless spiral of doom, isn't it? Yeah,
but they did know that this whole 140 million more had just been ordered.
Oh, right.
And I said, you do realise this is going to mean at least another two?
What did they say to that?
I think you're right.
Oh. And did they say they're going to take the other two, or didn't you go?
I didn't like to ask. Yeah, really, because I think I know the answer. I think some people will just never.
Yeah. So is that the one?
Never learn.
So there's one of them's quite clever. She's been to university. Well, well, Cambridge. Wasn't it? PhD.
She's a PhD.
Was that
I
the
mean,
one?
but in English language.
Right. Okay.
Old English language, so like the medieval English language. So, but it's not like she went to university to study science.
But she's a clever person, so you'd think.
Yeah, I don't think that makes. I think it's whether you've got common sense rather than brains.
That's it. Yeah. Definitely.
There is still a lot of just going along with it because that's just what's expected. We did have that whole thing about how someone I know had it just as they can go on holiday, and the destination they want to go to since the beginning hasn't allowed tourists.
Right.
And it's still not allowing them now. Mm-hmm. So she's had 3.
And she still can't go
and she still can't go.
Where she wants to go.
She said that was the reason she was having it.
Right.
And the other day I was speaking to her, and she said that she feels like she's never going to get there again and that this is going to go on forever. And she's always been quite, I think you're wrong to me. So the other day was the first time that she expressed any doubts.
Right. I think more and more of them are sort of starting to smell a rat, really.
Oh, and then I was in the shops this morning, only our local shops. There were 3 customers in there. I was one of them, and only one had a face nappy on.
Oh, right.
So and
that's quite good. Yeah,
the 2 of us didn't.
Yeah.
I was in the majority. Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's good. Only 3, but in the majority.
I mean, saying that, when I was at the restaurant, there were people coming in with them on, and that's not even a place where they've asked you to have them.
No. No, that's.
I mean, that's always been suspect anyway, hasn't it? Because you go in with it, sit down, and then presumably it doesn't sink to that level of sitting.
Oh no, it's only up to. It only comes to here
and above.
As soon as you're sitting down, you're
as soon as you get up again, it's back on. That's never sat well with me.
Oh, well, it makes perfect sense, really, when you think about it.
Oh, and my company are trying to get us to go back into work next year for 2 days a week, because all this time I've been working from home. On the provision that you do that whole sit at your desk without your nappy, get up with it.
Yeah.
And get tested twice a week. And I've said I don't want to do that.
No. So we've got to stand up to stay strong.
And luckily, I work in a team of 4, and 3 of the others have said the same. There's only one of us that said she would go back in, she would wear the face nappy, but she wouldn't get tested.
Right.
But she's quite happy to go back in. The other 3 of us have said, no, all the time this madness is going on, we're not coming in.
Okay, so...
And so far, they've not pushed it. The company haven't pushed it.
Yeah, I think, you've proven you can do the job from home anyway. So,
I think this is the funny thing. They've always said that as admin staff, we can't work from home.
Yeah.
And now that argument's gone, having done the job from home for all this time.
Yeah, that's it.
So
that's a good sign. So just going back to your weekend away, was there any other sort of points that came up that was interesting, shall we say, with them? Or have you covered them all already?
Funny how when I was off camera I had plenty to say on the subject.
Yeah.
And now my mind's gone blank.
Yeah. So obviously you're just going into the because you went to quite a few shops. And you obviously weren't like that, and presumably they all were.
Yeah.
And what did they say to you about that? And were they not sort of thinking, hang on a minute, how's she sort of not dropping down dead, even though she's not like that around all these shops?
Because I said to them, but before we went, that I will not be wearing one, so that if that upsets them, then perhaps I don't go.
Right.
And they luckily did feel, well, that's your choice.
Right.
Which is nice. I mean, whether they just said that or not. So. But
it is just
I think choice, sometimes, do you know, I think sometimes the wearing a face nappy is fear. Because I said to you, when you were going up to London yesterday, one of them was convinced that you would get arrested and fined.
Yeah, yeah. So,
and I said that won't happen in a million years.
No.
And they said, yes, it will. And I said, no. I said, I think you're out of proportion of what they're actually doing. No,
I know. Actually, one thing I forgot to say yesterday is when I was on the tube in one of the stations, I actually walked right past a gaggle of coppers. There's about 5 of them, and they didn't even bat an eyelid at me.
And I think this is the thing. I think people are misinterpreting the trouble you'll get into.
Yeah.
If you don't. And I think a lot of people that I've spoken to about the wearing the nappies is that they're more worried about people turning on them and having a go at them.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to do that. Yeah, actually, I said it on yesterday's video, but I don't know if I told you. They're doing the announcements in the tube station.
Yeah, I did watch yesterday's video.
He did. So they're coming out with a message saying, you know, basically, do not have a go at people if you see them not with one of those.
Yeah, because there are so many reasons that you can be exempt from having from wearing it, and you're not. It's not going to be obvious. It's a little bit like people who are disabled, but they're not necessarily in a wheelchair. There's lots of levels of disabilities that make you exempt from things. I'm not just meaning face masks, but lots of different things.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing. You don't.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily clear that you are exempt.
No. Okay.
But I mean, the whole thing should be up to the individual. And if you're that scared, stay at home.
Well, if we're living in a sensible world,
that's what would happen.
Everything would be down to you.
Yeah. Do you know, and interesting though, we were talking about face nappies, and I said, so the Chinese are renowned for wearing them all over the place. So how come it went supposedly like wildfire? It spread like wildfire there.
Yeah. So
and there was no answer for that.
No, often they don't, do they? They don't have answers. Okay, right. We'll zoom in out a little bit to a bit of a broader picture. What's your take of the whole thing that starts with O and ends with N?
Do you know? I think it's coming up to Christmas. It's inevitable that there was a new thing.
Yeah.
Inevitable.
That's it.
And now, of course, we're like, oh, Christmas will be better than last year. But we'll let you know a week before, or maybe we'll let you know the day before.
Yeah.
What's truly going to happen.
That's it.
And I was listening, because sometimes you do have to listen to the mainstream to see what people are being told.
Yeah.
And so this morning they were saying, and of course there's fears that the new one is especially contagious for younger people.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course it is.
How convenient.
Because it knows the ages of people, you know.
Yeah.
It has a brain.
Yeah.
It not only knows that it has to be this high and above.
Yeah.
But it also realises that I'm just going to pick on the young people this time.
Yeah.
And next time when I mutate, I'll probably pick on the middle-aged.
Yeah. And it's a very clever virus.
Yeah.
So, it knows not to attack you if you have one of those on.
Yeah.
Even though I think it's like a fly flying through an aircraft hangar open door, isn't it? Sort of like the perspective, the scale between a V particle and the mesh of those masks.
Yeah,
it's absolutely ridiculous, you know. But so this whole thing that starts with O, it is just so crazy, isn't it? It is really crazy. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, we've got 60 cases or whatever it is now. Oh yeah. So and like, ooh, out of the 70 million people that live in this country, we better all like lock down and never see anyone else ever again. There's probably 60 cases of the most rare disease you can think of in this country. Somewhere in the world there's probably 60 cases of the bubonic plague somewhere, because that's still going, isn't it? Yeah. And you're just like, really, people just get a grip. How can people not see the nonsense.
See the nonsense
See
and
through the
see
nonsense,
the percentage, how tiny that percentage is on the whole of the world.
Yeah.
The whole of the country, rather. And can you imagine if in 2019 they'd have done a study on how many people had a cold?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's lock the country down for a cold.
And it's like anything that one person can be perfectly fine when they're ill, and another person can get exactly the same thing and be 5 times as bad. That's not a new thing from 2020. That didn't just suddenly happen.
No, of course not. No.
That's just how illnesses are.
Exactly.
Some people fight cancer, some people die of it. That's just life.
No, that's it. Actually, an interesting thing. So when they sort of last weekend when Johnson did his speech and announced, we've got to all do those again in shops, and it was a little bit weird, wasn't it? Because if this thing was really bad, he would have said you've got to do it as from right now. Whereas no, it was as from Tuesday, which at the point was what was it, sort of 3 days away, 2.5 days away. And do you know why they've done that? Because they're going to review it in 3 weeks.
Oh,
well, 3 weeks from whenever that first day was is the winter solstice. And you know how these people love their numbers and their dates,
because the dates are very important, aren't they?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that. That's shocking.
Yeah, that is. I only was told that by someone yesterday, I think, or the day before.
My word.
So yeah, I think we've been going on quite a while actually. So on that bombshell, I think we'll end it. So thanks for your sort of input and your sort of.
Sorry about saying too many words.
Well, sort of edit those out.
Please do.
So where she was saying the. Words you shouldn't say on this platform, I'll edit them out so it might look a bit jumpy and weird and sound a bit weird, but that's what's going to happen, I'm afraid. So, with that, it's Tim and Lorraine from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.